Well, more pro-Palestinian protests gone mad, this time in New York. Surprise, surprise. So they have this rally or march tonight in New York City. Now, yesterday, they have the New York Times, and they did this again earlier this afternoon. The event's called Flood Manhattan for Gaza. As I mentioned, it started late this afternoon, and I think they were going to go from, Brooklyn to Manhattan, wherever they were. Maybe they blocked the Brooklyn Bridge, I don't know. Now, the protesting Israel's war in Gaza, of course. So this is going to continue all throughout the night. Oh, I can't wait to see the coverage about this tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. So they're demanding an immediate ceasefire. And there was a small group called Writer's Block, which entered the lobby of the New York Times carrying a large ceasefire sign. And they stayed well over an hour, reading thousands of names out loud of Palestinians killed in Gaza. This is their 9/11. That's what this is. This is their 9/11. But I'd just like to know, how many of these quote-unquote victims were actually killed by Hamas? Anybody ask these protesters that? They probably don't even know. Now, they threw out a mock paper called the New York War Crimes and accused the media of, quote, complicity in laundering genocide. And they spray painted the word lies on the New York Times headquarters doors. Also spray painted Free Gaza on police cars. Did this yesterday as well. Now, this is too funny to pass up here. So, security in the building. New York Times headquarters. Get the words out. I'm still suffering through this cold here, so bear with me. One take video today. But they sent this internal email, or this series of emails, letting the staff know that the demonstration was mostly peaceful. Mostly peaceful. Okay, let me get this straight. So people who are spray painting on the doors to your building, the entrance to your building, they're spray painting on police cars. They're throwing out papers and blocking the entrance to your building. And they're screaming all these chants. You're going to call this a peaceful protest? A peaceful protest would be standing across the street holding picket signs. Whatever signs they come up with crayons, markers, whatever they bought at the kiddie protest store. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This really has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with freeing Palestine. It's all about 2024. And if you doubt me, I said this before, if you doubt me, just go back and check that footage of these protesters who were nose to nose with the White House gate, waving their Palestinian flags through the White House gate, shaking the White House gate. So was this an insurrection at the New York Times by these protesters? Just curious. Now, in a somewhat related story, and this is good news here, Columbia University has suspended anti-Israel student groups for threatening rhetoric and intimidation. And it's these same groups that have been behind all these protests. Whether it's Writer's Block or whatever this group in New York is calling themselves, whatever the event is called, whether it's Jewish Voice for Peace or Free Palestine, BLM, Antifa, you name it, all cut from the same cloth here. These people have one thing in mind. That's to cause as much disruption as possible. But Columbia University has suspended, through the fall now, has suspended these groups from protesting, from organizing, having this protest on campus. And the groups involved here at Columbia University are Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace, the same ones that we saw at the Cannon Office building in D.C. with that sit-down, with that, insurrection. That rebellion. Worse than the Civil War. citing that students involved in the walkout have repeatedly violated university protocol regarding holding campus events. So these were prior offenses, and they were given prior warning. And according to Gerald Rosenberg, Senior Executive Vice President, who released a statement explaining the university's decision, he talked about this violent rhetoric or intimidating rhetoric and these violations of university policy. So that's the latest. Quick video for you today here for Friday. So they're protesting in New York. I'm sure they're probably going to protest in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, you name it. Whatever happened to Portland? Nobody talks about Portland. I can guarantee you, if you asked any of these protesters, these pro-Palestinian protesters, as I said, getting over this sinus cold here. Don't you hate it when you have a sinus cold, you can't hear, you can't think straight? Everything's all like stopped up right in your nose. It's like, So at any rate, if you asked any of these protesters who George Floyd was, they'd give you the deer in the headlights look every time. George who? You see, because with these protesters, they got to find a martyr for the moment. Oh, we should have a t-shirt called that. Don't trust the left. Martyrs for the moment. What do you think? So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. You can also follow me at Instagram, #JasonComposes, because I write music in my spare time. And by the way, thank you for subscribing, for being a part of this thing called the Culture Confederacy. It's a real pleasure to do these videos. I have a lot of fun doing these videos. Or you can find me at X, Culture Confederacy, at CultureConfed1 on X. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out, stay safe, everybody. God bless this thing called the United States, and you all have a great Friday night.